Well, hey now, welcome to Fitz's Electric Bar. I'm in my wife's friend's place that we stay in here in Hiro and still in Tokyo. I've got another 3 days left here and have been having a fabulous visit. This particular video, I'm going to focus on records and records that I've been buying in Japan. It's been so stimulating going to the record stores. When I first arrived here, my friend Simon was here. We immediately went off to Shibuya and hit a whole bunch of record stores there. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And the purpose of this is really to tell you about like what my experience has been really for the first time buying records in Japan and specifically Tokyo. So I'm by no means an expert, but I want to kind of give you a sense of, as a neophyte, what my experience has been like in terms of buying records here. It's been really fun. There's no sort of like singular aspect to shopping for records here, except for a few characteristics I would identify. One of them is there are so many record stores, little shops, sort of ma and pa shops, big chains, and there's so much to be seen and found in all of those places. Records are priced. The variation of how they're priced is huge. In other words, if you're a crate digger and you've got tons of patience, you can find some absolute gems here. I'm not a crate digger. I don't have enough patience, but I'm not looking just for, single tracks or super obscure records. But you can also pay obscene amounts of money. I tended to stay away from the racks, the sort of the facings in the stores, especially the bigger stores like Towers and HMV and Disc Union, because they generally were their high profile releases, your Led Zeppelin 2s, your whatever things, and they would often run anywhere from like $200 to $500. But if you're looking for jazz in particular, there's so many to be found for really reasonable prices, at least compared to what I notice in Vancouver when I've done some shopping in Brooklyn for used records. And most of what I got was used, and I'll talk about that in a moment. The stores that we went into started with Tower Records. We were there about 5 to 10 minutes before Towers opened up. There was a big lineup of people ready to go in. Just that sense of excitement reminded me of when CDs first came out, and in the mid to late 80s, I went down to New York and hit Tower Records. And I remember as I was approaching kind of their flagship store, I saw all these people coming by with iconic yellow bags with red lettering, and I'd feel my heart fluttering, and I was almost like, I have to run to get to the Tower Records. And at that time I was buying CDs. I was just getting into jazz, and I remember coming home with so many CDs that seemed like they were a pretty good deal, but also the selection was staggering. So a little bit different, but as some of you know, although Tower Records has gone bankrupt, I guess, in the States, there still exists Tower Records here in Japan. My God, this Tower Records, 7 or 8 floors. There's a floor dedicated to J-pop. There's a floor dedicated to jazz, 1 or 2 floors for rock, Japanese, sort of like rock and Japanese music that's not J-pop. There's so much. And so, yeah, we just hit a few floors, but there were 1 or 2 floors that were fantastic. And we met a guy there called Adam. He was there ready to get in, and he had just arrived in Tokyo as well. And we found him in the rock section and going through records, and we had a great chat with him, Simon and I, and we'll be circling back on connecting up with Adam. Adam, over the course of his stay, was dropping huge amounts of money and was finding the whole record buying thing overwhelming and fantastic, I think, if I could speak for him. And I've got a little clip of one of his voicemails that he sent to us about the experience of going, after buying many, many records in Shibuya and other places, of hitting the bonus tracks record fair on the weekend, which is just a 2-day event, and spending huge sums of money there, and just being so excited with his purchases and being aware of the value of his purchases.
Your buddy Simon has liquidated my assets because I did not think I'd spend $400 at this cute little crafty vinyl fair. But lo and behold, that's what happened. I found some really good stuff and some really, really good stuff. The Ron Carter Outlaws album goes for like $60, $70, and it was $13. But regardless, it was still very awesome. I probably cannot spend any more money on vinyl unless if I find one or two holy grails like Dark Side or Metal or whatever. But yeah, if you're still in town tomorrow, let's hit up a jazz bar.
Shibuya was a main center. Shibuya is the place where they've got that crazy crossing. I think that was part of Koyaanisqatsi. Philip Glass's music was set to, and that documentary. But Shibuya's got Tower Records. Shibuya's got HMV. Shibuya's got Face, Next Records, then a few disc unions that are, either rock or jazz. They actually have like at least 3 or 4 disc unions in Shibuya. So Shibuya was a place I went back to over and over again. Some of the places, just so you can see the packaging. So Disc Union, bought a lot of records at Disc Union, multiple visits. As I mentioned, Tower Records, lots of stuff there. Face Records, I think for some people, this would be a fantastic record store. It was a little too esoteric for me. I think Crate Diggers would love it. They had a smaller selection, but some really, really cool stuff. Soul, funk, jazz, and some hip hop as well, which was really neat. So let's dive into some of the music. As I mentioned, most of what I got was used. And one of the things that's really great about getting records in Japan is that whether you're getting a US pressing here in Japan or whether you're getting a Japanese pressing, in general, people who buy records here in Japan, they take care of their records. So generally are in very good condition. I mean, that's a generalization, but Japanese are generally very respectful and careful of their records and take care of them. The second thing is that the stores themselves, they rank the records according to the quality. So they don't want you opening up. They're all wrapped up in plastic. They have like a clear cellophane cover to it, but they have the artist name, a little description, a little note about whether it's a US original, whether it's a Japanese pressing, or just a regular US pressing. So that information is pretty cool. Some of it's in Japanese, some of it's in Romaji, and you can read, but also the quality of the records. And they often are either like S for sealed, B, which is I think a pretty good grade. Like it's not A, but it's very good. And then some stores will do like the Discog style of G, VG, VG plus, NM, that kind of stuff. And one of the things that we were talking about, Adam, Simon, and I, is that the condition of the record that they have on the cellophane is usually fairly conservative. So some of you might have experienced that when you're buying things on Discogs. Sometimes the condition is listed as something that ends up seems a little inflated when you get the product and it's not so good. Here in general, if you're getting something that's B or a VG, you're generally getting something that's in pretty darn good shape. Sometimes the covers are really well worn, but for my taste, most important thing is the vinyl and the record cover, as long as it's not battered, and they never really seem to be, pretty much. It's the vinyl that I really care about. And so when it says VG, then it's probably VG plus. B, it's usually B plus, that kind of thing. The other thing that I'm trying to figure out was, should I be buying, especially with jazz, should I be buying US versions or Japanese versions? And a Japanese friend of mine who buys a lot of music, his feeling is basically US is generally better. And some of you may be aware of that. I wasn't really. So I got some Japanese pressings of jazz as well as US pressings. I'm not somebody who looks out for necessarily a first pressing. I think you pay a premium for that. I'm not a collector in the sense of trying to necessarily collect stuff that might have resale value. But I have to admit that if I see a label and it says, if it were to say promo, or if it says that it is an original pressing and it's like a B or a B plus, VG, VG plus, why not? Like, I'm going to get that, especially if the price doesn't seem to be hugely inflated. So there's a lot of that. So that's enough of a kind of an intro. Let's get into the records that I bought, shall we? Okay, so of all the records I bought, and I'm not sure quite how many I have, 30, 35 or something that I bought here in Japan, all in Tokyo and area, I only bought 2 new ones. The rest are all used. The first one, when I was in Tower Records, they were playing this record. I love this record, Blue Nile, Hats. I think it's been reissued in the States as well, in North America. But the Blue Nile, Hats, they were playing this on the sound system in Towers. Beautiful, beautiful sound system. And I've just been waiting to get this on vinyl. It wasn't super cheap. It was like 4,700 yen. So again, in Canadian dollars, that's around, it's almost a 100 to 1 ratio, meaning 47 bucks, probably 45 or so dollars. So probably not unlike what you would pay in North America, but had to get it. And this is actually a EU pressing. So the other one I got, Adam got me into this. He buys records. He's got a lot of stuff that he's looking for that he finds that he is interested in, but he also will buy albums based on just covers. And I don't generally do that. So knowing nothing about the artist, I saw this one in a disc union. This is a Brazilian artist, Michi Sarmiento, Yusu Combo Bravo. And I didn't even bother to look up to see what the reviews were in this, but I had to love that. He's got the cheroot in his mouth, looking like a gangster. Apparently, after looking at this afterwards, this has got a lot of different Brazilian styles. It's not just, so they mention here that it's a mix of genres: Paseo, Guanguanco, Rumba, Cumbion, Merengue, Cumbela, Calypso, Gaita. Sorry for the pronunciations, but looking forward to this. So those are the only 2 records I believe that I got that were absolutely new. The rest, used. Okay, now apologies to start with because I've just got too many records to be taking them all out of the transparent cellophane. So there's going to be a little bit of reflection, but I'll try to minimize it. So here are a bunch of the used records that I got on this visit here in Tokyo. This is broadcasting from home, Penguin Cafe Orchestra. And a band that I used to listen to quite a bit. I'm not familiar with this album, but I've read that it's a pretty darn good one. So I got this one. I think that was around 20 bucks or something like that, so not bad. I got a couple of Roy Buchanan records. This is his first record. So this has got Sweet Dreams on it, as well as his cover of Neil Young's Down by the River. These Roy Buchanan records were, I think, basically like 400 or 500 yen, so like $5 to $7 or something like that. So again, this one I don't think from Reviewing All Music's review of this is necessarily one of his strongest, but this is a great chance when you come here and for like, $5 to $10, you can get a good quality used record of an artist that you're interested in going deeper in. So Roy Buchanan, You're Not Alone, a great guitar player. This is a band that I had this original album. This is their first album, Dexy's Midnight Runners, Searching for the Young Soul Rebels. Loved this record, lost it in the Great Flood when a lot of my records were destroyed. And I was able to pick this up for a reasonable amount, I think about 15 to 20 bucks or something. And I really wanted to get this record again, so that's great. Another one that I had and somehow no longer had, Iggy Pop's New Values. This is a Spanish version or a Spanish pressing. It's a gatefold as well, which is good. I am a big David Sylvian fan, but haven't really been able to penetrate the Japan catalog. I think I like Sylvian's more ambient, atmospheric stuff than a lot of the Japan stuff, which I find to be a little too stylized for my taste. That said, being here and being able to get some records at a reasonable price, I decided to dive into a couple Japan records from the catalog. I was able to pick up a copy of Quiet Life. Nice copy of that. And I also got a Greatest Hits again. I'll see if I can dive deeper into their collection. So this is Exercising Ghosts. And this is a Japanese pressing. So again, I don't know with pop music, like with rock music, whether the Japanese pressings, years ago, I remember, kind of like the idea of getting a Japanese pressing. I always thought that they were using virgin vinyl was a better quality. And so sometimes I would pay a little bit more for artists like Brian Eno's stuff. That would be a Japanese pressing, but I don't know if what I'm speaking, I don't know if there's any truth to that or not. So I basically looked at stuff that I wanted to get, the price, and went from there. Got this Japanese pressing of Flowers of Romance, Public Image Limited. This was in like almost perfect shape, the very best of the Stone Roses, this Greatest Hits package. An album that I loved as a teenager and been streaming it recently and was able to find a copy in one of the stores. Derek and the Dominoes in concert. This is awesome. The first two tracks especially, Why Does Love Got to Be So Sad and Got to Get Better in a Little While with the wah-wah pedal. Eric Clapton at his best. Derek and the Dominoes live. Paul McCartney too. Don't need to say much more about that. I think I was like $4 or $5. Should be in pretty good condition. Simon found this for me. I've become a huge Gene Clark fan, and I've got a Dillard and Clark album with the one with the motorcycle and the side-along sidecar or whatever. This record has got the song Polly on it, which was covered by Alison Krauss and Robert Plant in their Raising Sand record. And so I was very happy. Again, this was probably about a $5 purchase at Towers. So you can find these great deals. And on the assumption that they're generally going to be in really good shape, it's hard not to get anything that you think you might be interested in. Might not even know that well for $5 to $10. This is a music on vinyl of Jeff Beck's Blow by Blow, another record that for years I've wanted to get. This has got that song, Because We've Ended as Lovers, which is dedicated to Roy Buchanan. And so that song in particular kind of led me to Roy Buchanan, and hence some purchases this trip. You know who I've been getting into, and after kind of like rejecting him for a while in my punk days, was Al Stewart. But I've been really enjoying hearing Year of the Cat again. I've been listening to that. I was able to pick up a used Mo-Fi back in Vancouver. And this was the album that followed that, I believe, Time Passages. This was a pretty inexpensive record, so I picked this up. Another record that I like, I don't know that I really am likely to play the two Fleetwood Mac, blockbuster albums, Fleetwood Mac and Rumors, but this one, it's got a bit of an 80s production to it, but I really like this record, Mirage. And so I got this. This was, I think, for $4 or $5. So I picked up a copy of Mirage. Simon, again, he often will say, you got to get this. So he highly recommended this. This was probably about $25, which seemed quite a bit given the other prices. But I picked this up. Dylan's on there. And anyways, haven't listened to this yet, but looking forward to it. So one of the things that's interesting to me is when you are in a place like Japan and you're expecting that the vinyl will be in good condition, there's a really good selection, like deep catalog of stuff. And if there's something that you've been interested in, and there's a great opportunity to get a whack of the stuff, and you can just try it out. And presumably if you don't love it, or some of it doesn't really resonate with you, you can probably take it to the local store and be able to sort of get your money back, as it were. But I decided this trip, I've been hearing a little bit about the Modern Jazz Quartet, don't know much about them. And when I hit Shimo Kitazawa Disc Union, they just had a whole whack of Modern Jazz Quartet. So I picked up 4 and 1 adjacent record. So the last concert, I think it was recorded in New York. Got this one. I think that was about 900 yen. So for Americans, this is like about $5 or something. It's a double live record. This is another one that's supposed to be quite good. Modern Jazz Quartets, Volume 2. Got that. This one is a Japanese pressing. Get another Modern Jazz Quartet. Blues at Carnegie Hall. This one is a Japanese pressing as well. And then there's another Japanese pressing, Modern Jazz Quartet, Prestige. And it's just Concord, the Modern Jazz Quartet. I don't know if Concord's the label or if it's a sub of Prestige, but anyways, a Modern Jazz Quartet one. Again, this was probably about $4 or $5, even Canadian. So you get change back for a $5 from the US. And then the adjacent one, Milt Jackson Bags Opus. Got that. This is Japanese pressing as well. So again, I'm going to be putting to the test to see how the Japanese pressings are. A few other jazz ones that I picked up, mostly I'm not too obsessing about this, but it does change the way you purchase and the quantity you purchase. Probably mostly in the $5 to $10 range, but Nate Cannonball Adderley's Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. This is produced by David Axelrod, who did the Songs of Innocence, which is a really fabulous record. Again, Simon said, check this out, get it. You got to own it. I'm a big Art Farmer fan, so Started to flush out my Art Farmer. I've got mostly on CD, Art Farmer and Japanese pressing, modern art. Trumpet player. This one, I just love the cover. I like Mal Waldron. I have a connection with Mal Waldron in Japan just because of a CD that's really hard to find that I got when I was in Tokyo. Went to a jazz bar that was played for me. But this is Mal Waldron and Steve Lacy. It's on the Inner City label. I always love my Gabor Szabo. I'm gradually collecting vinyl of his. I think this is a great record, Spellbinder, along with Jazz Raga around the same time. It's really an awesome record. This has got Gypsy, Queen, Spellbinder, Witchcraft. This is awesome. Right up there with Sorcerer. Again, Simon told me to pick this one up, and we listened to it, streamed it a little bit. I don't have a turntable here where I'm staying, but as you can see, Japanese pressing, very kind of like loungy, sort of 60s style music, something you'd expect to see maybe in a Mike Myers film. Nancy Wilson, who I quite like, has a great cover. Don't know anything about this particular album, but the charm, the thrill, the beauty, the excitement of the magnificent Nancy Wilson. And then this one I was quite intrigued with, Red Rodney. It's called The Red Arrow. Ira Sullivan, Tommy Flanagan, Oscar Pettiford, Philly Joe Jones, and Elvin Jones. So very strong lineup. This is on the Onyx Records label, original 57 recordings. I think this was about $15 or something. So don't know this record. Looking forward to this. It's so fun to be able to pick stuff up that if you don't really love it, it's not the end of the world, So then off to Bar Music. I've had 2 visits already at Bar Music, and in addition to a wonderful listening bar with a really warm system and tremendous just warmth and acoustics in this place, and people come in and they talk fairly quietly and the reverence for the music and things I've talked about, that it was just fantastic. But they also have their own label, and they also retail records, very much boutique. They don't have a ton of stuff, but it's really cool. I'm going to show you a little shot from the inside of the bar, which is really great. One of the things that's amazing to me is I found out that the Japanese DJ Com, whose records I have bought over the last little while because of recommendations from my local record store, Audiopile, that has a strong connection to Japanese releases. And I just really enjoy his music. It's kind of city rhythms, and it's not pop. There's no vocals, but it's just beautiful stuff. And I found out that DJs at Bar Music. So his next show or whatever is going to be in December, and I'm going to be gone. But I'll be back to Tokyo, and I really want to be able to experience his DJing in Bar Music. But here's what I got at Bar Music. So their own imprint, Bar Music's own imprint. I think this is licensed by also Mr. Bongo, who do those great record club compilations. But this is called Tokyo Moon, Terry Collier. Over the last couple of years, I've become a huge Terry Collier fan. Speak Your Truth is a really great record that came out a couple record store days ago. And What Color Is Love, or The Color of Love, What Color Is Love, is a crazy great album. 74, I think. The production's great. And his music is sort of soulful, a bit folky. He really defies complete description. He's his own person for sure. And what this says here, because this was released after Terry Collier died: when you, living in Tokyo, look up to the moon, and when you, visiting Tokyo, look up to the moon, I would like you to remember Terry Collier. It's the least we can do for this soulful musician taken to heaven. And this is written by Tomoaki Nakamura, who I think is the Bar Music master and basically the label head for those releases. So this is Terry Collier, and sorry for the reflections, but Tokyo Moon. And this is some live music, I presume from Japan. It says Ordinary Joe live. So one track is live, and then the first vinyl of 7 songs. So 7 songs that I guess haven't been released elsewhere. The other thing is, when you're in there, listening to the music, I found that there's always like tracks where I have to go up and ask them, Namae wa do, dare desu ka? Like, who is this? And somebody when I was last here in 2018 that I really enjoyed was this piano player from, I think, Poland, and his name is Slavek Jaskulke, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. This is one of his records. They played it last night. It's called The Sea, or just called Sea. And these are not easy to get. I got one of his records, but it reminds me a lot of, again, I apologize for the reflection. It reminds me a lot of Keith Jarrett, solo piano. The ambience of the room, like the Colin concert, is really spectacular, full of emotion, and extremely accessible, but not in a sort of cheesy mainstream way. So I had a compilation that I got from Bar Music 6 years ago, and one of his songs was on that, and it was really one of my favorite tracks off of that. So I've been kind of seeking his stuff out. I've got three CDs of his. And then a 7-inch EP with the Bar Music imprint there. And this one, they were playing this one song, so I had to pick it up, and I can't even pronounce it. But there's the artist. And then interestingly, the side B, it's a cover of Sacred Heart. The artist's name is Leila Bialy, but Secret Heart is a Ron Sexsmith song. So that's what I've got so far. I've got 3 more days here, and I'm very tempted to go out and do some more digging. It's been just a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. Hope you've enjoyed the selections that I've showed you, or the records that I bought. And I would encourage, especially if you're a jazz guy or gal, to come here. I think you would really enjoy the selection and the pricing and the quality of the pressings, or at least the quality of the condition of the records. It makes it really worthwhile. And I do want to reiterate, it's not like everything is super cheap, but if you're willing to put in the work, you can find some really, really special releases. And you can also find some stuff that maybe isn't so special, but you can get a really nice copy of it for a fairly inexpensive price. And it's just so much fun. It's so much fun shopping here. There's just so much interest in vinyl and music in general in Japan, and Tokyo is wonderful for that. So carpe diem, MFs. We'll be back with some more Japan videos soon.